That same night, Fatima cast a spell on her son Musa while he was asleep. Once upon a time, in a small village called Afia, there lived a beautiful and kind lady named Salima. Salima was so beautiful that her beauty and grace caught the eyes of many men. Many men came for her hand in marriage, but she bluntly refused their advances. Her only reason for rejecting men who came for her hand in marriage was simply because she never wanted to make a mistake and end up marrying the wrong man. She was scared of being mistreated by any man she could call her husband. So for that reason, she rejected many men who didn't seem worthy to her. Salima was almost 31 without a husband or child. Her mother became impatient with her and she began to persuade her to accept any of the suitors and get married. Salima ignored her mother's advice, saying that she had not found the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. All her mates and friends in Afia village were married with kids, but Salima was still single. This made the villagers make fun of her each time she passed by the village square. The villagers called her different names, while some called her evil spirit. Despite all the side talk and pressure from people, Salima never listened or cared, and she never failed to carry herself with grace. One day, as Salima was going to the market and passing along the bushy path, she was bitten by a snake on her left foot. She fell down, groaning in pain and screaming for help, but no one could hear her. She kept screaming for help, and fortunately, a very handsome man named Musa, who was passing by the road, saw Salima lying on the ground. He ran immediately to help her. When he got there, he asked Salima what happened, and she told him she had been bitten by a snake. Musa took pity on Salima, carried her immediately and took her to the village herbalist. The village herbalist treated Salima, but she fell asleep during the treatment. When she woke up, she found Musa watching over her. After she regained her strength, she thanked Musa for saving her life, and immediately she fell in love with Musa, and Musa also fell in love with her. It was love at first sight. Musa loved Salima so much that he decided to marry her and make her his wife. He asked for Salima's hand in marriage, and Salima didn't hesitate to accept his marriage proposal. After their successful marriage rites, Salima was so happy to be married to Musa. Salima moved into Musa's house and they began to live as husband and wife. They were living peacefully until one day when Musa's mother, Fatima, visited Musa uninvited. Musa's mother was known for her troublesome and arrogant lifestyle, and everyone tried their best to stay away from her trouble because she was known for her powers and love for black magic. She possessed strange magical powers which she received directly from the river goddess of Afia village, making people fear her even more. When Salima saw her mother-in-law, she welcomed her warmly and served her some food. Her mother-in-law ate the food, pretending to be a good woman. After she ate the food, when her son Musa got back home, she started complaining to Musa about Salima and the food she had given her to eat. She told Musa that the food Salima gave her was tasteless and had no meat, and that Salima had added water into her food. However, Musa, knowing who his mother was, didn't take the complaint seriously. Fatima gradually began to make Salima's matrimonial home unbearable for her. She kept nagging at the slightest mistake, always finding fault with Salima and making her life difficult. Salima, being a good and kind woman, kept trying her best to please and satisfy her mother-in-law. Despite her unkindness towards her, she went as far as washing all her clothes, cooking 6 different varieties of meal for her every day to suit her taste. She could clean the house to her mother-in-law's satisfaction, wash all her dirty clothes, and take care of her needs. However, Fatima was never satisfied. She always had something to complain about. Salima gradually became a maid in her own matrimonial home, with no rest or moment of peace for her. Every morning, as soon as Musa left home, Fatima could keep sending Salima on different errands as if she were a maid. Salima kept enduring this pain just to make sure her home was at peace. But one day, Salima opened up to her husband and told him about the sufferings his mother has put her through. Her husband Musa was very upset and unhappy. He tried to speak with his mother concerning the stress she put his wife through. He told his mother to let Salima be and to stop treating her like a maid. Fatima became angry at Salima for reporting her to her husband, her son. She swore to deal with Salima. That same night, Fatima cast a spell on her son Musa while he was asleep. The spell she cast on him was to make him unresponsive to her evil deeds. No matter how she treated his wife, he was never going to react or say anything about it. When Fatima knew that she had her son under her grip, she turned Salima into a full-time housemaid, and Salima kept suffering while her husband kept quiet over all the mistreatment from her mother. But Salima never knew her husband was under a spell. Salima continued enduring the torment from her mother-in-law, and this continued for months. One day, Salima discovered she was pregnant with her first child. She was happy that she was going to become a mother very soon. She told her husband the good news, and she begged her husband never to let his mother, Fatima, know about it. The torture on Salima from her mother-in-law continued, and Salima discovered that she has begun to get weaker and weaker as the week passed. She decided to leave her matrimonial home, telling her husband that she could be traveling to her home and that she will stay there until she gives birth. During their discussion, they never knew that Fatima was standing behind a door listening to their conversation. And then she came to realize that her daughter-in-law was pregnant. Fatima began to plot how to stop her daughter-in-law from leaving. On the day Salima was to leave, Fatima sneaked into her room and added some substance into Salima's food. After Salima ate the food, she began to feel dizzy and couldn't leave. She slept for hours, and by the time she woke up, it was already late at night. She noticed something was added to the food she had eaten. She became upset and confronted her mother-in-law. Fatima couldn't believe that Salima could have the guts to confront her. Fatima swore to deal with Salima. Fatima used her strange powers to cast a second spell on her son. This time, she cast a spell for her son to do whatsoever she told him to do. She started first by telling her son to stop taking care of his wife and also to stop giving her money for food. Her aim was to see Salima starve to death. Salima struggled to take care of herself and her unborn child single-handedly. She was able to survive by doing some manual job for people where they pay her some mega amounts of money, which she used to buy food for herself and also to buy some baby stuff for her unborn child. It surprised Fatima how Salima was able to survive even without the help of her husband. Fatima thought maybe the spell she cast on her son was not enough to make Salima suffer, so she decided to cast a spell on her pregnancy. The spell was to stop Salima's pregnancy from reaching full term. After 6 months, it was almost time for Salima to deliver. She was excited that her baby could arrive soon. She got everything ready. 10 and 11 months passed and there were no sign of labor. Salima began to weep, asking God to help her deliver. But the more she waited, the more everything seems like it's in vain. Her mother-in-law began to mock her and call her names, telling her that this is what you get for challenging me. Her husband, who was under the influence of his mother's charm, didn't even care about his wife. Salima was left to carry this challenge alone. Fatima, who was determined to see her daughter-in-law suffer, brought another woman for her son to marry. She sent Salima away from her matrimonial home, even with her pregnancy. When Salima got home, she narrated the whole event to her mother. Her mother was so emotional that her daughter has gone through all this in the hands of her mother-in-law. She welcomed her daughter and took care of Salima. She was excited that her daughter made it out there alive. Salima kept struggling with her pregnancy. At the 18th month of her pregnancy, she fell sick. Her mother began to grow concerned for her daughter and her pregnancy. She took her to a herbalist, and after the herbalist examined her, he told Halima's mother that her daughter's pregnancy was under a spell. With that spell on her, she could never give birth and she might probably die with the pregnancy. Her mother was terrified and asked the herbalist what she could do to undo the spell. The herbalist told her to take her daughter to Afai River and bathe her, as the spell cast on her daughter was from the Afai goddess, and only bathing in the Afai River could undo the spell. When Halima regained consciousness, her mother took her to Afai River and she bathed there. After 3 days, she began to get better and stronger. On the 4th day, she went into labor. After 6 hours of labor, she gave birth to a baby boy. She was very happy and overjoyed. Back at Halima's matrimonial home, the woman Fatima had brought home for her son to marry turned out to be the daughter of a very powerful chief priest with great magical powers. When Fatima tried to mistreat Uli, just the same way she did to Halima, she refused and stood her ground against Fatima. Fatima never knew Uli had great powers, which she had obtained earlier from her father before coming. Fatima tried to cast a spell on her, but the spell didn't work. Fatima decided to poison her food. One night, while she was sleeping, Fatima sneaked into her kitchen to add poison to her pot of soup. However, Uli was not asleep. She was only pretending. Uli saw Fatima adding the poison into her food. After Fatima left, Uli took the poisoned pot of soup and swapped it with Fatima's pot of soup. The next morning, Fatima woke up happily, hoping to hear a sad news soon. She went into her room, started eating from the pot of soup in her room, not knowing that the food she ate from was the one she had added poison to. After eating, she lied down in her room and couldn't wake up again. She died. Uli discovered that what she had added to her pot of soup was poison, and she was happy that finally the evil woman was dead. Right after Fatima's death, The spell she casted on her son cleared away from his eyes. He began to look for his wife Halima, but Uli told him that she was sent packing by his mother. Uli narrated to him how her mother lied against Halima and made her believe Halima was a witch, which made her decide to follow her home and marry him. Uli asked for Musa's forgiveness, and then she left Musa's home and never to come back again. Musa went to ask for forgiveness from Salima. When he got there, he discovered that Salima had already given birth. He was overjoyed and happy. He knelt down and asked Salima to forgive him, explaining that he didn't do it intentionally. He told her that his mother cast a spell on him. Salima, being such a kind woman, forgave him and went back with their son to her matrimonial home. When Salima got home, she discovered that her mother-in-law had died. She was filled with pain and wept bitterly. But finally, Salima and Musa, alongside their son, lived as one big happy family. The moral lesson of this story is never hurt others, as the same thing we wish upon others has a way of coming back to us. Be good and kind to others.